Let's give ourselves an overview of all that we've learned about plant and animal cells. In these images, we can see a side-by-side comparison of the two. So we'll begin to compare the two, starting with the outside of the cell. So immediately see in both of them that the extracellular matrix is present. On the outside of this animal cell, we can see all the collagen fibers and everything else that are actually holding these cells in place and allowing the cells to relate to each other. In some less common cases, the collagen fibers might also be able to send signals between cells, similar to the axons of neurons. So the extracellular matrix is a little more complex in the plant cells case because plant cells have this rigid structure known as the cell wall, which is something that the animal cells will not appear to have. This makes the cell wall a key difference between the two types of eukaryotes. The cell wall acts as a defensive or filtering mechanism for plant cells, as it's very tough and rigid. It is made of cellulose, which is a very common polysaccharide. Now, if we go one layer deeper into the cell, we encounter the plasma membrane, also known as the cell membrane. This is a structure present in all cells, and so it is present in animal and plant cells as well. One interesting thing is that they can both actually have tunnels from or between neighboring cells. So these openings that you can see in the cell wall are known as plasmodesmata. In animal cells, the analogous structure to the plasmodesmata are gap junctions, which are very similar in function and are also interpreted as openings in the cell membrane. One slight difference is that plasmodesmata are very common and are present in various species of plant cells. However, in animal cells, gap junctions are a little less common and aren't in as many species of cells. One of the animal cell species with gap junctions are heart cells. These allow electrical signals to move through the cardiac tissue. These electrical signals can be expressed as messages to other cells to notify that it's time to contract in the correct way. So these gap junctions are also very crucial for a few animal cell types. Before we enter the next layer of cells, I just want to re-emphasize that these membranes that always come up are lipid membranes, and often lipid bilayers. There's a complete video on the cell membrane on this channel, but the general idea is that they're these amphipathic molecules that arrange in this bilayer to satisfy the hydrophobic and hydrophilic ends of the phospholipid molecules. So the heads, which are hydrophilic, point outwards, and the tails, which are hydrophobic, huddle inwards to create this bilayer. So as we go deeper into the cell now, there are these barely visible cytoskeletal parts. There are these microfilaments and microtubules that have a variety of purposes and effects on the cell. None of these images that you can see give even a fraction of the complexity that consists within even the seemingly empty parts of the cytoplasm, which is mind-blowing. One of the more rare organelles in the animal cell are centrosomes. These things organize all of the microtubules and will play a key role when we talk about mitosis. However, plant cells do not have these centrosomes to organize the cytoskeleton, so they have their own alternative ways to organize them without the help of significant organelles. So what other differences are there between plant and animal cells that are in the cytoplasm? One of them is the size of the vacuoles. In plant cells, the vacuoles are these massive structures that take up a huge chunk of the cytoplasmic volume, while in animal cells, the vacuoles are a similar size to most of the other organelles and blends in. The best analog in animal cells for the vacuole is the lysosome. This organelle is like the waste disposal center of the cell, but is only in animal cells as it breaks down worn out organelles and waste products. Commonly, it's known as the stomach of the cell, as it has a relatively low pH level or acidic pH level in order to break down and recycle as effectively as it's able to. So while we're on the topic of metabolism in the cell, it's worth talking about the peroxisome as well. There's actually an interesting backstory towards its name. When early scientists were observing eukaryotic cells, they saw this organelle that appeared to be undergoing some oxidation, which was unusual for scientists at the time, as this was a new discovery. Within this process, the byproduct appeared to be lots of hydrogen in the molecular form of hydrogen peroxide, which is what forms the name peroxisome. We're still trying to understand all of the things that they do, but so far we know that they're very important for cutting up long chains of fatty acids so that they can be more useful for other parts of the cell. However, we're beginning to discover that they also have several other roles in the cell that we're trying to fully understand. Going back to differences between animal and plant cells, we can try to analyze the ways that these cells create energy. Normally, animal cells will be part of a larger organism that is able to eat and metabolize food, which consists of nutrients for the animal cells. However, plants undergo photosynthesis to make their energy, and to do this, they use organelles known as chloroplasts. These organelles are obviously only in plant cells and take light energy, water, and carbon dioxide to create nutrient-rich sugars and oxygen as a byproduct. Now when we talk about energy, it's mainly in the form of ATP, and in both of these eukaryote types, that is created through the powerhouse of the cell, mitochondria. There's also a lot of organelles that are similar in the two cells, such as the Golgi apparatus, which is where we package proteins to leave the cell. We also have the endoplasmic reticulum, or ER for short. Some have ribosomes as the rough ER, while some don't as the smooth ER. This is where a lot of proteins get manufactured and then transported into the ribosomes and Golgi apparatus. Then finally we have our nuclei and nucleoli in both cells, which both have their respective genetic information. So all of these things that were just listed are in both the plant and animal cells. So they do have a lot of similarities as well. So this video pretty much wraps up our cells unit, as we've covered all that needs to be covered for now on this topic. So the next main unit is going to be energy and transport. So for example, we'll address metabolism, enzymes, osmosis, respiration, photosynthesis, along with many other things. These are all the topics under the field of biology, however. But we'll now be spanning out to other genres of science as well, and alternating between them, which will be really interesting to develop and set up. So the future of this channel will have a lot more diversity in terms of topics being talked about, which will be very exciting. But for now, I thank you all for watching.